It is a podcast that has captivated millions. A real-life murder mystery. And this morning and tonight on Dateline, love me some Dateline, we are getting an inside, unbelievable look. We're meeting some of the women who found themselves drawn into the world of Dirty John.
Devil's got the boyfriend, he's got the one who...
When the Los Angeles Times and the podcast network Wondery released Dirty John, it was a phenomenon. The #1 podcast in the country for a time, downloaded by more than 15 million people in 200 countries. Reporter Christopher Goffard spent months on the story.
It's a story about trust and betrayal, and it's a story about family.
Those millions of listeners met Debra Newell of Orange County, California, who went looking for love online and was drawn to the profile of a man named John Meehan.
He was the total package. A doctor, very intelligent, family man, loved his kids.
He was charming and sensitive. On their second date, he arrived in medical scrubs. He just finished an operation. He was handsome, tall, and knew just how to treat Debra.
He swept me off my feet, said everything right, took me everywhere that I wanted to go.
But Debra's daughter Terra and her sister were cautious.
We were very judgmental of all the men that she dated.
Possibly a little too judgmental.
Me and my sister could go over the top sometimes. Just very protective over my mom.
And there was something about this man, this doctor, John Meehan, that didn't quite make sense to Debra's daughters.
One of her daughters is particularly suspicious. She doesn't know why he wears surgical scrubs everywhere. It seems to be a costume he's wearing. She thinks his fingernails are dirty, and this does not look to her like the hands of an actual doctor.
Those suspicions would turn them into amateur detectives, and their investigation would reveal that Dr. John Meehan was a man with a very dark past. I cannot wait to see this tonight on Dateline. They'll take you through the whole thing, but we have a bit for you now. Debra Newell is here with us, and her daughter Terra is also here with us. Thank you both so much for being here.
So welcome.
So Debra, you meet him, dream guy, like, yes, I've made it.
Mm-hmm.
And how soon into the relationship were your daughters saying, maybe not?
Immediately.
Okay. Was there something other than the scrubs and the dirty fingernails?
He was just very standoffish. We would ask him questions. He would want to give us a one-worded answer. He didn't want to look us in the eyes. And he was just kind of, his social skills were a little off with me and my sister.
Okay. Debra was not to be denied, however. And you and he eloped. I mean, you secretly got married.
Yes.
Okay. And so how soon after that did you start getting the hinky feeling that there might be something wrong here?
Well, I didn't want to see it. I was falling in love. He had swept me off my feet. And he was saying everything right to me. So he had me thinking he was this wonderful, great guy. Mm-hmm. It did feel as though he was isolating me from my family, from my friends.
That is what controlling men in particular do.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And you did something extraordinary, which was hired a PI.
I didn't. My sister did. And then my other sister and her husband and my cousin, so they all got together and did that. I was living in Vegas.
Okay.
So.
And describe what the briefing was like when the PI came back with the information.
Well, he said that he was in jail multiple times, that he was basically a drug addict, and that he had a warehouse in Cathedral City in California. And in the Cathedral City warehouse, there wasn't that much in it. It was like a refrigerator with a backpack with zip ties and like a kidnap kit.
And he was not a doctor?
No. Well, he went to medical, or he went to anesthetist.
He was a nurse anesthetist?
Yes.
CRNA?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but had been posing as a doctor.
Yeah.
And had led you to believe that he was a doctor. So how did you ultimately say, okay, because I know you went into hiding. How did that happen?
Well, they confronted me with all this information. I went to John And I said, here's everything that the family's saying. And he said he could prove that it was all wrong. He took me to a lawyer that said it's all wrong. He's the victim. And then there were multiple things, and he had an answer for everything.
He was a fast talker.
Oh, yes.
And convinced you not to believe the evidence.
Right.
And things went from bad to worse after that. When we come back, the devastation that followed Debra's decision to keep Dirty John in her life. So Debra Newell went into hiding, afraid for her own life. She had secretly moved in with one of her daughters, hoping they could protect each other from this man. And then they found out that this man, her husband, John Meehan, was back in town.
Newport Beach 911, do you need police, fire, or paramedics?
Hi, I need an ambulance right away and the police.
August 20, 2016, a late afternoon. The parking lot of a rental apartment complex in Newport Beach, California. That's when they heard the screams.
She says this woman's just screaming. All right.
Whole complex must have heard it.
Is she okay?
There was a man. He was violently attacking a woman.
It's really bad. All right, I understand. We have officers on the way.
That woman was Terra Newell, who with her dog Cash had just stepped out of her car to find someone waiting. Dirty John Meehan.
He said, "Do you remember me?" He looked me right in the eyes.
He came after her.
He was trying to push me into the car. He actually had the trunk wide open.
John was 6'2", a foot taller than Terra. As he pushed her, he began hitting her with a bag, something hard inside of it.
It just felt like I was getting punched over and over again.
But it wasn't that. There was a knife in the bag, cutting her, slicing into her.
And I put my arm up with my purse above my heart, and I tried to get away from him, and I was screaming. He put his hand over my mouth, and I bit as hard as I could.
Her dog Cash barked furiously and bit into John's ankle.
I got thrown down onto the ground somehow, and I was just pedal kicking him, trying to block the knife when he's stabbing me. And I kicked the knife out of his hand, and it landed on my right hand side.
And then, full of adrenaline, she did something astonishing. Debra Newell and her daughter Terra, who was in that confrontation, are back with us now. So when we last left off, you and John, he had talked you into believing he was an okay guy.
Yes.
But after you got back together with him, you left again. And ultimately you went into hiding. That's when he turned his attentions on your daughter. And Terra, take us to that day in the parking lot. You're minding your own business. You're out with your dog. You see him. Was it immediately clear to you that you were in danger?
Yes.
Did he
Yes.
say anything to you?
Yeah, he looked me in the eyes and he said, "Do you remember me?" And I just tried to get away from that instant because he put his arm around me too. So I was like, I need to get out of here right away.
How long had it been since you'd seen him?
I haven't seen him since maybe a year or so. I had a confrontation with him the day before Thanksgiving, before they got married. And
So it had been a while.
Yeah.
So what do you think his purpose was in attacking you and going to you?
To kill me and maybe get ransom out of my mom.
Ransom. Do you was he asking you for money when you were separated, you were in hiding?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. He was trying to destroy everything around me, my business, reputation, everything.
Meantime, you're learning the truth about him, which is this long history
Yes.
of being a con man, of taking advantage of women, of serving time in prison, none of which you knew and all of which he denied.
Yes.
So in that parking lot, first of all, had you ever taken self-defense or anything like that?
No.
So you were going all on instinct?
Well, I watch a lot of like Criminal Mind shows, The Walking Dead.
Unbelievable, right? We all think that will help us, but in the back of our minds, we tell ourselves probably not. So scissor kicks and all that, you like pedal kicks, that was all just instinct and Criminal Minds. Okay, so
Walking Dead.
Well, Walking Dead, I
Walking
watch
Dead.
that religiously.
So Walking Dead turned out to be critical towards saving Terra's life. Tell us how and why.
Well, when I got the knife from him, I just like stabbed him. I didn't give it a second thought. I just thought it's like it's him or me. And then also the last one was to the head, and I think that's like, oh, the zombie kill.
It's amazing. How can you talk about it so matter-of-factly?
Lots of therapy.
There you go. There you go. Are you okay? I see a scar. Are you okay now?
Yeah, I'm okay. I didn't have any physical damage per se, except for this one was 1 inch deep in my arm. I had one right here on my chest, and that one was 2 centimeters deep, but it didn't puncture anything.
And for the record, what happened to John?
I stabbed him, and then I killed him, but they revived him on the scene, and then a couple days later, they pulled the plug on him.
Wow. Wow. When we come back, Terra goes back to the scene of the crime and the moment she was forced to fight for her life. So we have only just scratched the surface of this story this morning. Tonight, Dateline NBC will dig much deeper into the story of Dirty John. Debra Newell went back to the parking lot where she fought for her life with Dateline's own Keith Morrison.
I don't want to poke and prod too much, but what happens inside your stomach when you're here?
I just get a lot of anxiety. I just have flashbacks of me running down the ramp and just like going to the cement.
She gamely showed us the spot where she looked death in the eye and struck back. This wasn't an easy thing to do.
I'm just taking it all in right now.
Uh-huh. I think you're a tough cookie, right?
Yeah, that's what a lot of people say. I guess so.
We agree. Debra Newell and her daughter Terra are back with us now. And Terra, you were never charged, right?
No.
Because?
It was clearly self-defense.
Yeah. And there were eyewitnesses to this.
Yeah, there was a lot.
Yeah, there was no question about it. So John, Dirty John, as he was called, that was his nickname, terrorized many, many women, including his ex-wife. There was a woman, there were a few women. There was an ex-wife before Debra. Her name is Tonia Bales. She's with us now. Tonia, thank you for being here.
Sure.
You have 2 children with him.
I do.
And so how are they processing these revelations about him?
Well, we've known for a long time. This is all new to you guys, but we've been watching him and watching his story and kind of keeping an ear and an eye open with a detective in Ohio for the last 17, 18 years. So some of it's a surprise. Exactly how it happened was a surprise, but we knew that this was going to end in someone dying. We just didn't know who.
So when he got married to Debra, did you know?
I had heard once his daughters had contacted Detective Lucan in Ohio. He and I have kept in contact all this time. So when there was a new development, we would hear about it. Mm-hmm. Or he would contact me.
Debra, I know your sister was killed by her husband.
Yes.
And your mother raised both of you to be extremely forgiving. I mean, there's a reason. Forgiveness is good, but wisdom, to a fault, right? I mean, wisdom is also good. You have to pay attention, as Maya Angelou used to say, when someone shows you who they are, believe them.
Right.
And so, right now, to women out there who may be struggling with, is this a good person? Is this not? Like, what is your message?
Take your time. Get to know them, get to know his friends, family, do some research. If I would have taken the time, I would have seen who the real John was. And don't listen to your heart all the time, but listen to your head. Mm-hmm.
So. Your gut, 9 times out of 10, will steer you in the right direction.
Right.
You're brave, and good for you. Thank God you're safe as well. Thank you all so much for being here. Oh my God. Tonight's Dateline, whatever you're doing, just cancel it. It's called The Women and Dirty John. It airs at 10 p.m., 9 p.m. Central, and who doesn't want to hear Keith Morrison report this story? For other great true crime podcasts, by the way, you can go to today.com/MegynToday.
Hello, Today fans. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking that button down there and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives.